John is an older man who suddenly commits suicide one night on Halloween Eve. John's daughter from his first marriage, Emma, has never forgiven her father for leaving the family years ago, and although she attends John's funeral, she doesn't want to get closer with her half-sister Jocelyn, who was orphaned after her father's death. But the sisters are forced to unite when they are stalked by a mysterious man in a bright orange suit and a creepy mask. The last decade can be considered the era of double-bottom horror, creepy stories that can certainly be perceived as straight-up horror movies, but that were obviously intended as a symbolic metaphor for a particular weakness or dark emotion. In The Babadook, the monster emerged from the tragedy of loss. In Smile, beneath the monster's guise lurked depression, and the recent Aussie hit Talk to Me is a disguised reflection on drug addiction. But all these movies became hits because first and foremost they were horror movies, tense, scary and brutal, and those who didn't want to read the message encoded in them still had a great time. With The Jester, the situation is the opposite. It's not so much a horror movie with an undercurrent as a psychological drama that uses horror elements like illustrations in a book. Without them it will be more boring to read, but their removal will not change the story itself in any way. And this is the main problem of the movie, which is quite unexpected, if you know where the picture grew from. It grew from a trilogy of short films that director Colin Krawchuk and producer and screenwriter Michael Sheffield, who also played Jester, made for Halloween 2016, 2018, and 2019. Each of these films lasted 10 minutes each and was essentially a creepy anecdote, in which the demonic magician Jester claimed another victim. The very first movie Krawchuk and Sheffield filmed for $500, not hoping for anything, but it became a cult. People appreciated vivid, memorable image of Jester and Krawchuk's talent to scare. When Krawchuk and Sheffield were offered to make Jester the main character of the feature film, they first wrote a traditional Halloween horror script about a monster who kills, just because he can. But then they completely abandoned that concept and started writing the movie anew, building off of the central characters. And ended up writing a psychological drama about guilt, alienation and unforgiveness, dark destructive emotions manifested by Jester. Perhaps, on paper it looked logical and interesting, but in fact the movie does not fall into any audience. Fans of smart movies will be disappointed and bored, because the Jester shows its second layer too late, and horror fans will be upset, because the further you watch, the less important and less essential becomes the horror component of the story. Interesting, that in 3 short films, Jester never killed anyone, and that was a nice touch, but in the full-length feature, that was abandoned, and here, too, the weirdness kicks in. Even the most powerful villain should have limits to his abilities, but the movie's Jester has none. He can do literally anything with his victim with a snap of his fingers, but he kills and maims without any reason, on an incomprehensible principle, and this also prevents you from fully connecting to the plot. In essence, The Jester is not a bad movie, the authors of which honestly wanted to make a scary and smart horror, but the lack of experience in full features let them down.